Hello everyone, and welcome back to the island of Mewseille. My name is Cara, and today we will be decorating a pumpkin patch with the new fall update items. I have to admit that I had no idea where to begin with this build, so I was super nervous and ended up changing quite a few things as I was going along, but it turned out so wonderful and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. So I hope you guys love it as much as I do. I'm beginning by putting down some dark dirt pathing. I choose the dark dirt instead of alternating between the dark and the light because I think the dark dirt looks so much nicer and richer as soil, while the lighter dirt just kind of looks dry. I feel like it wouldn't be very good for growing plants, so I don't love the look of it. One thing I was concerned about during this build that you guys probably won't have an issue with is keeping it semi-symmetrical. I wanted it to be aligned with the viewing platform behind resident services. This space is actually where I'm planning to build a cathedral in a few weeks, so this farm will be leaving us. However, I'm going to just move it up a little bit to one of the upper levels in the back. I just really wanted to be able to go out behind resident services and gaze over it in the mornings throughout October. As you can see, I am putting down hedges and country fencing. One thing I'm concerned about with the hedges and the country fencing is making sure that they have the end caps on them. This creates a lot more texture to the fences. Instead of just being a straight line, they have little bits on the ends. In my old turnip field, I actually used Zen fencing, and since I used Zen fencing on the resident services build, I considered using it for this, but I thought it just looked a little bit wrong with the whole setup that I was going for. I really wanted it to look rural, but more like European rural. So then I tried out some brick fencing, as well as some straw fencing, and I really love to put bushes or hedge in front of both of these fences because they're quite tall as compared to the country fencing. And I like to put country fencing in front of the hedges because it's slightly shorter and it has more transparent bits. Something else I tend to consider with fences is the level of transparency as well as the things that go underneath of them. So for the country fencing, there's quite a few gaps between the pieces of wood, so I thought it would be nice to have it directly on the grass instead of on the soil so that a bit of the grass would show through in between. However, I like to have the hedges on top of the soil because it makes them feel more like they're coming out of the field instead of just next to it. For the terraforming in this build, I tried to make it take up the least amount of space possible while still having a large visual impact. I also am trying to get better about remembering to put down pathing before I put down simple panels, so you can see me putting down some arch stone tile right here, and I really like the texture this gives to any custom path placed over it when looked at an angle. It just really adds so many little dents in it that make it look super realistic. And here's the custom code that I'm using for my barn. I think this will go super well with the autumn colors, but it also looks nice with the green right now. And I like that there are tons of flowers on it, so it will carry the greenery of the current season into the future. Next, I'm adding roof tiles on top of the building. This is something I always like to do when I'm creating terraformed buildings, just to help it make it look a little bit better. Even though I'm totally covering it up with solar panels here. And I'm going to try to do something a little bit different from what most people do. I feel like most people put them together so it creates a tented roof, whereas I'm going more for a straight roof line where you can see the front of it from down below, but it doesn't create an A shape. However, once I did that, I noticed there's still quite a large gap, which I was trying to avoid by trying this new way of placing them. So unfortunately I still had that problem. And then I tried to break up the monotony of having literally 6 of the same exact simple panel in a row, and I'll also change around where these go once I find the solution for this roof gap. While the soil paths are slightly obsolete now that we have actual farming, I thought it would be cute to place them underneath the hedges just to add a little bit more dimension. As you can see, it creates a nice shadow even when there's none from the actual sun. And now I'm changing out the stone pathing for a terracotta one because I'm going to change the path that I currently am using to to the same one that's on the simple panels up above. I have a huge soft spot for super realistic pathing, and I'm always on the lookout for more because I think it just adds so much to the game and makes it look beautiful, especially when we have so many lovely textured items. I began placing my pumpkins down, and I'm super excited for them to grow up, but I did realize as I was doing this that I needed slightly more space, so I had to move a tree. This is quite a serious pumpkin patch. I got a ton of pumpkins from it, and I'm super happy with that. I really wanted to get the maximum number of pumpkins possible while still looking nice and small. So it's just a super functional design that I would highly recommend. I'm sure you've noticed by now that my color scheme for this build is largely reds, yellows, and browns, with a lot of orange, especially coming from the pumpkins once they grow up, and a lot of green as well for that lush greenery effect. However, I also use quite a bit of icy blues, and that is just because I think that will pop really nicely once the ground turns more orange and the trees turn red during autumn. So I just really love that contrast. I also decided that I kind of hated the dark green path, and so I just swapped that off camera so you didn't have to sit through that again. And my solution to the problem of the solar panels is to put a silo in front. So I've moved around the panels a bit so that it's like two separate sides with windows and the bit with a silo in front, just so it kind of looks like a side of a barn instead of the front. I do love so many of the seasonal items, so I tried to incorporate those here. I really adore the Halloween stuff, but I did think this arch, which was the first item I had on October 1st, was a little bit much, like a little bit too dark for this space. So I'm planning to customize it with the green pumpkins once they grow, and maybe I'll use it somewhere else. I do like to customize almost every item I use, because it just adds that little touch that's a little bit different from what everyone else is doing. Another trick that is really important to creating a super complex looking design is to always put little simple custom designs underneath of items that you place, just to help it feel a little bit more full. I haven't been doing that with every item I've placed down recently in the speed build, but I do go back and change that because it is really important to the look of the final result. I also love to use potted plants as well as real flowers and bushes. I feel like that adds another layer of complexity to what's going on. And I've thrown up a little jack-o'-lantern and a bonsai tree, as well as a floating biotype planter, to add a little bit of a Halloween touch, while still having a bit of a garden center vibe. And I'm returning my garden wagon, which is one of my favorite items in the game, back down in front of the country fences. At the end of the little street, I've decided to create a small painting area by customizing a painting set with a pumpkin design and putting down a common painting, as well as a little stool for our artist to sit on. Hopefully a villager will wander down there one day, but if not, I guess I'll just sit there. I'm also adding realistic little details like a garden faucet and bucket of water just for our daily farm activities, and planting some more trees. One thing I am curious about is whether this would be considered a cottagecore build. I know that cottagecore is a very specific aesthetic in the Animal Crossing community, and it's not really what I'm used to seeing be called cottagecore, since I mostly know it from Instagram. Personally, I would consider this cottagecore, but I know that a ton of people would disagree with me on that, so I would really be appreciative if you would let me know what you think about that down below. Anyways, I am putting down a hay bed, and this is part of a little story that I'm trying to create, just between basic little items like the common painting and the straw fencing and this hay bed. I don't think stories need to be super complex to be effective. I just think that it's nice to have little details like that, where someone looking at your space can pretty quickly see a story. And that story in this case is just that there was a harvest, and someone painted it. It can be as simple as that, but I think that's also still quite effective. Anyways, I'm building a little farmer's market area over in the corner, and I'm not totally happy with how this came out, but it's alright. And I'm sure it will change later, especially in the Thanksgiving update. I really like the way that this fortune cookie stand looks with all the Halloween stuff. I think the orange fits really well, as does the cream. And yeah, I just think it's nice. Unfortunately, I didn't have any of my old DIYs from my old island, so as much as I would love to put a little fruit basket here and maybe a little watermelon, I did not do that because I don't have those things. But instead I added a little cherry box and some green soup. Something I find is really useful when building this is to give it more visual weight by putting things behind it. I feel like this helps ground the stand against something in the background and helps make the items on it stand out a little bit better. In this case, a simple panel covered with baguettes and a bunch of trees is a very effective solution. I've also placed a little leaf stool just because I think it's cute, and I've put out a water pump because I feel like that fits. And finally, I've added this brown imperial screen behind the stall just to totally close it off almost entirely from the grass behind it. With a few more small changes, I was done for the day and was able to move on to the second day of this build. The pumpkins have grown a little bit more and the view is stunning. Daisy May gave it a little look around, which was adorable. And then I just proceeded to water all of the pumpkins and make a few more small edits, such as adding some more trees. I feel like trees are something you can't really have enough of. I think every time you feel like you have enough trees, you should add a couple more just to be safe, and then you'll have a really nice area. I downloaded this really nice stone pathing to replace the white stone pathing in my last build of resident services, and I think it's way more natural and it will carry over way better into fall and winter. I think the key to making this look really nice in this area was putting it underneath everything I came along, except for this little stool at the end, just because I like the flowers. And I think that really made it seem like it flowed nicely, despite being a single tile path and not having anything underneath of it. I've also put it at the end of the hedges, just because I thought the gray stone underneath the hedge tied in really nicely with the color, and I extended the main path down a little bit to get rid of that extra green space that wasn't really doing much. This director's chair gives a little bit more space to this little area, and it is customized with the pumpkin design, which I thought was fun. Then I returned the silo to its rightful position, gave the pumpkins their second water to guarantee that they all have 3 pumpkins instead of 2 or 1, and I was pretty much done for the day. Finally, I added a little bit of lattice fencing in as a gate, which I think is really nice, and moved on to the next day. When I climbed up to the resident services roof at sunrise the next morning, I was absolutely blown away by how beautiful it was. Just look at that view, guys, and how adorable are those tiny little pumpkins. I was so excited to run through there and check everything out, and I seriously had to resist never picking the pumpkins again because they looked so adorable. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you liked this video, please consider subscribing or finding me on Twitter and Instagram at mewseille. I'm blown away by how kind everyone is here, and to celebrate reaching 50 subscribers, I would like to do a small giveaway of my eternal love and friendship to everyone who subscribes. Also, if you're looking for anything specific in the game or would like help with anything, be it items or custom designs, please leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to help you out. Thank you all for your support, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.